Yo, Famo, we got the untold story of Chunky, man. Tales of Toronto. Let's get it, man. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's lock in, gangy.
5 men police say are responsible for kidnapping a Newton Brook secondary student in early March.
They arrested 6 people. One is under 18 and cannot be identified. All have been charged with first-degree murder.
A street gang on the brink of extinction.
That's what Toronto police hope is the case with the Dixon Bloods.
They are identified as Liban Hussein, alias of Chunky.
I got me trust issues, keep the heat in my sweater. Bitch, I'm grinding in the winter, summer shining with that cheddar. I shoot, cash, yeah, I feel under the weather. Got the sauce, right, now they know who really better. Look at me just like I you.
I got trust issues. I carry that shit. You know what I mean? He said I got that ragu sauce.
This is Liban Hussein, better known by his street name, Chunky. He's a reputable member of Toronto's notorious Dixon City Bloods with a lengthy criminal history. From being involved in high-profile kidnappings to getting swept up in a raid at 18, Chunky's story is a chaotic one. But how did his journey into a life of crime begin? It all begins in the west side of Toronto, on the corner of Dixon Road and Kipling Avenue, where a cluster of high-rises lay. The area, nicknamed Dixon City, is essentially the Little Somalia of Toronto. In the late 1980s, thousands of Somalis, seeking to escape the abysmal conditions of war-torn Somalia, jumped ship and landed in Toronto, congregating in the apartment complexes located on Dixon Road and Kipling Avenue. This included Chunky and his family. The reason they ended up on Dixon Road was because in 1988, Transport Canada decided to allow passenger aircraft to fly over the Kingsview area. Air traffic over the area increased drastically. Upset, disgruntled, and downright pissed off middle-class residents of the area moved away. The mass exodus resulted in lots of vacant homes and apartments and sent property values plummeting to the bottom of the barrel. Arriving Somalis took up residence in the area for 2 reasons. 1, the cost of housing was cheap, and 2, it was close to Pearson Airport, which meant they didn't have far to go after they cleared customs and immigration. Meanwhile, during the 1990s, Crip sets began popping up.
So, the people that was in Canada didn't like that? Like, they didn't want them to come to Canada? I wasn't fucking with that shit?
In Toronto, laying claim to neighborhoods all over the city. True to their nature, the Crips banged with local street gangs, pushing them out of their territories. The Crips wanted to control the drug scene, so the local gangs were forced to either align with the Crips or fight back. Most chose the latter, and to make a statement, the local gangs took up the color red, repping the Bloods. This is when the Dixon City Bloods came into play. Unconfirmed rumors state that one of the founding members of the Dixon Bloods was a former member of a New York-based gang, known as the D-Shine Bloods, who had relocated to Dixon City in the early 2000s. Young Somali immigrants quickly picked up on the pecking order, and since violence was nothing new to them, they excelled in the streets. The Dixon...
Yeah, I got another question, because I'm not gonna lie, the Somalians, they go crazy, bro. How is it in Somalia? For me, I hope I'm saying this shit right, gang. For me, Somalia, how is it out there? Is it wild out there too? Like, we gotta do a doc or something out there, because these boys be going crazy in Toronto, bro.
Bloods maintained low profiles and were extremely mobile, often moving as a group from city to city. They focused on easy money, operating on a commodity-based system, selling drugs and guns to anyone who wanted to buy, including the then mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford.
We seen that. We seen him.
There has been a serious accusation from the Toronto Star that I use crack cocaine.
You do.
I do not use crack cocaine, nor am I an addict of crack cocaine.
Stop the cat.
Can you get off my driveway, please? Can you get off my driveway? Can you get off my property, please?
We are now in possession of a recovered digital video file relevant to the investigations that have been conducted.
I now look forward to Rob Ford interviews the way children look forward to Christmas morning. It's
the best excuse I heard you give for using that crack cocaine was I was in a drunken stupor. And I'm wondering, is that supposed to make anybody feel better?
No, not at all.
All he told me was it's not only your unit, it's the whole building, and this is happening because of Rob Ford.
The mayor of Toronto came forward today to admit he smoked crack cocaine.
I'm like, damn.
In February of 2013, Dixon City Blood member Mohammed Syed was at a bungalow adjacent to the Dixon Towers. The occasion was a social get-together of fellow Bloods.
I ain't gonna lie, you could look at bro and know like he be having the time of his life. Look at him, bro. Look at him, bro.
But Mayor Rob Ford was the star of the night. The mayor was there in the bungalow partying with the Bloods, and during the festivities, Mohammed recorded a video of the late mayor smoking crack cocaine. Mohammed, alongside Libin Siad, another noted Dixon Blood, decided to sell the video, hoping to make some easy money. He contacted various media outlets, saying that he had a shocking video that would expose the truth about Toronto's public officials, specifically the mayor. Media network, The Gawker, naturally tried to buy it, putting together $200,000 to purchase it, but the transaction never took place. Unsurprisingly,
The Gawker? What the fuck kind of thing? The Gawker?
$1,000 to purchase it, but the transaction never took place. Unsurprisingly, rumors of the video leaked. When asked point blank about it, Mayor Ford denied it, as did his public relations people, but the rumors kept circulating and the public began screaming for an investigation. Under heavy scrutiny, Toronto police launched Project Brazen 2, which was charged with investigating the mayor and his close friend Alessandro Lisi, who was accused of purchasing drugs for the mayor and extorting Mohammed and Libin in an attempt to recover the infamous crack video. Project Brazen 2 allowed for wiretaps to be placed on 11 associates of Mohammed Syed, all of whom had ties to the Dixon City Bloods. The data obtained from them was immense, and it marked the beginning of what came to be known as Project Traveler, a mass raid targeting the Dixon City Bloods.
The alleged offenders have been charged with approximately 300 assorted serious offenses, including participating in a criminal organization.
That organization, police say, is the Dixon Bloods, based in this northwest Toronto neighborhood. It's stretched all the way to Windsor. Police moved in early yesterday morning in both cities after more than a year of investigating. 28 men and women were arrested. More arrests, they say, are still to come.
The crime situation and the potential for violence has not been completely eradicated.
Yesterday, everyone was brought to this courthouse, including some familiar faces. 2 of the men in this now infamous photo were charged.
Look at your boy. Look at your boy. You feel me? He comfortable in the hood. You know he did a line or two. Did a line or two.
A judge has already said one of them, 19-year-old Mohammed Katak, is not getting bail.
I can't talk about what my clients told me, and the Crown hasn't given me any information about the connection with Rob Ford.
Police are also refusing to confirm or deny a link. Again today, the chief said it will all come out in court.
Would you acknowledge that there's a relationship between the mayor and the individuals in that photo?
Again, if I was to do that, I would be violating the law, and also I would be placing in jeopardy the work that the important work that we're doing.
Some of the suspects, many who
the individuals in that photo?
Again, if I was to do that, I would be violating the law, and also I would be placing in jeopardy the work that the important work that we're doing.
Some of the suspects, many who lived in this neighborhood with their parents, are facing drug, trafficking, and firearms charges. Others are up for attempted murder and murder. It's in the death of this man, Anthony Smith, one more person who, at one time, got close to the mayor.
Project Traveler jumped off in the morning on June 13, 2013. Hundreds of heavily armed police officers from 42 tactical teams and 17 different law enforcement agencies converged on Dixon City. 14 apartment doors splintered under the force of battering rams. Officers quickly cleared the rooms of each apartment and restrained the occupants. They searched the apartments for drugs, guns, cash, phones, and computers. Everything was tagged and bagged. While Dixon City was being raided, dozens of homes in Windsor, along with one home in Edmonton, succumbed to the same treatment. Overall, 60 Dixon City Bloods were arrested, including Libin, Mohammed, and Chunky, who was just an 18-year-old college student at the time. Combined, Project Traveler revealed $3 million worth of drugs, $572,000 in cash, 40 weapons, and the oh-so-elusive Rob Ford crack video. Chunky and the Dixon Bloods took a major hit in 2013, but unsurprisingly, the crew didn't falter. 2 years after the mass takedown, they were back in the news, this time for homicide.
It is alleged that they are all members of the Dixon Road Bloods and their associates.
Heavily armed tactical units stormed 3 buildings on Dixon Road near Kipling. They arrested 6 people. One is under 18 and cannot be identified. All have been charged with first-degree murder.
Sheesh.
On March 17, 2015, at a building sitting on 2063 Islington Avenue, gunshots rang out at around 3:15 p.m. in the underground parking garage. Ahmed Syed, the brother of the man who tried to sell the infamous Rob Ford video, was hit. Fortunately, he survived. Coincidentally, Rob Ford was at the building when the gunfire rang out.
Hey, yo,
he spoke to the Toronto Sun about the incident, adding that he witnessed Ahmed wounded. Like his older brother, Ahmed was a member of the Dixon Bloods, and when they heard one of their own was shot, they weren't happy. They began enacting a plan of revenge, which they carried out 5 hours later. They gathered 6 members, one of them being Chunky, and went back to 2063 Islington Avenue to confront Malcolm Marfo, a man who they suspected was involved in the shooting of Ahmed. The confrontation quickly escalated, with one of the Dixon Bloods pulling out a gun. Malcolm tried to get a hold of the weapon, but amidst the struggle, he was shot fatally. All 6 Dixon members then fled the scene. Shortly after clearing the first shooting, Toronto police returned back to 2063 Islington Avenue at 8:15 p.m. for reports of gunfire. When officers arrived, they found 22-year-old Malcolm Marfo dead in a hallway. With the knowledge of the first shooting and who the victim was, it didn't take long for Toronto police to realize this was a gang-related altercation involving the Dixon City Bloods. They began collecting footage from around the apartment building and were able to identify multiple people who they believed were involved in the murder of Malcolm. 1 month later, on April 2, 2015, with help from the Emergency Task Force, TAVIS, and 23 division officers, the homicide squad executed 8 search warrants in Dixon City. Chunky, Mohammed Omar, Said Haji, Sharmark Farah, Ali Mohammed Issi, and a minor were arrested and charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. They spent a year in custody until 5 of them had their charges withdrawn after one of the men, Said Haji, took the fall by pleading guilty to manslaughter. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison. By now, most of you are probably thinking Chunky is one lucky guy. So far, he's gotten off on the charges from the raid and now a murder charge. Well, you're right, and his luck will continue 2 years later when he got caught up in another shooting involving the same people. On April 23, 2017, at around 6 p.m., cameras caught Chunky, Ahmed Syed, and another man arriving to the parking lot of a complex on 1811 Martin Grove Road in a red SUV. Several other men who were already in the parking lot proceed to approach the parked vehicle. Ahmed Syed exits the SUV and puts his arm around a man wearing a gray hoodie as the pair walk across the parking lot together. In Toronto, when a man puts his arm around you in such a fashion, it only means one thing: he's about to rob you. Anticipating that was about to happen, the man in the gray hoodie beats Ahmed to the draw, pulling a handgun from his pants and firing at least 8 times.
Look at your boy. They got him pigeon-toed right now.
Ahmed to the draw.
Look, he caught him lacking at his feet like this, bro. Like, he like, oh, shit, bro. Oh.
Pulling a handgun from his pants and firing at least 8 times. Ahmed was hit multiple times in the lower extremities, but survived. Chunky can be seen grabbing the gun from Ahmed, helping him back into the SUV, and driving off. Toronto police found Ahmed 20 minutes later dumped in an underground parking garage at 345 Dixon Road. Ahmed, who faces charges for the gun battle, was also wanted at the time for another shooting that occurred in February of that year at 320 Dixon Road. While Ahmed was in custody, Chunky went on the run. He ended up in Oakville, Ontario, where he was found by Toronto police in October. According to investigators, they were investigating the murder of Abdul Qadir Bihi, a 29-year-old man who was fatally shot outside a complex on Dixon Road earlier in the week. During the investigation, they executed a raid on an Oakville condominium hoping to find 2 suspects in the murder. Instead, they found $27,663 in Canadian currency, drugs, 2 firearms, ammunition, and magazines. Chunky and 2 brothers were also found in the residence. They were hit with a list of charges relating to weapons, drugs, and possessing the proceeds of crime over $5,000. It appears Chunky spent no more than 3 years in custody before he was released, because he was back in the news by 2020. This time around, he would be involved in one of the most publicized kidnapping cases in Canadian history.
These are the 5 men police say are responsible for kidnapping a Newton Brook secondary student in early March, triggering an Amber Alert and nearly 40 hours of terror for the teen.
Olalekan Asakoya worked as a drug and firearms courier for a mid-level Toronto drug dealer by the name of Scott McManus for $10,000 a month starting in the summer of 2018. Asakoya, upset because he wasn't paid on time, or not at all by McManus, conspired with another drug courier to steal a drug shipment last summer. Asakoya obtained 90 kilograms of cocaine in London, Ontario, equaling nearly $4 million, but when he met his accomplice, he was robbed at gunpoint of 75 kilograms of the haul. Asakoya fled with only 15 kilograms of cocaine and went into hiding, but McManus believed he stole the entire amount.
Ooh, yeah, somebody got to pay that back. Somebody got to pay that back, and bro don't believe him. He think he ran off with that. That's 4 M's. Yeah, you gotta pay that back, bro.
McManus, who was in the middle of the criminal organization's hierarchy, was responsible for the cost.
So remember in the beginning, I was confused. It said secondary. They stole a secondary, whatever grade that is. Feel me? I'm assuming that's second grade, but I don't know what that is, gang. But if it's 4 M's, yeah, your family is starting to get involved in this. I could see something like your family getting involved in this. Yeah. They stole a secondary, 4 M's? Hell yeah, bro.
McManus, who was in the middle of the criminal organization's hierarchy, was responsible for the cost of the stolen stash. The disgruntled dealer visited Asakoya's parents' home, hunting for him, and later dispatched henchmen to break into Asakoya's and his girlfriend's homes. Later, Asakoya discovered that McManus put a $400,000 bounty on his head. That plan failed as well. McManus then devised a plot to kidnap Asakoya's 14-year-old brother to force the drug thief to return the shipment and save his sibling. In the morning of March 3, 2020, the kidnapping plot went into action. 5 men, Scott McManus, Samir Abdelgader, Hamed Shanawaz, Saleman Nassimi, and Chunky, used 3 vehicles, a stolen black Jeep Wrangler, a Mercedes, and a Chevy Tahoe to execute the abduction. Just before 8:30 a.m., the 5 men located Asakoya's brother, 14-year-old Shamajo Leami, in the Driftwood Avenue and Finch Avenue West area walking towards Newton Brook Secondary School where he was enrolled. They pulled up beside him and dragged him into the Jeep Wrangler. After receiving calls from the public who reported hearing Shama yell for help as he was being dragged into the vehicle, officers from 31 Division immediately acted by launching an investigation. With the lack of information at the time, officers were unable to locate the suspect vehicles, which made their way to a barn in Brampton, Ontario. In the meantime, officers managed to connect the 911 calls they received in the morning to the abduction of Shama, after his parents contacted them 9 hours after the kidnapping when he didn't show up home after school. His parents should have been notified by his school of his absence by 11 a.m., but his teachers did not input attendance data correctly. Toronto District School Board suspended 5 teachers for the screw-up. Things quickly escalated.
See, that's why attendance is very important, you feel me? And they fucked up, bro. They should have knew that, like, first period. First period, like, yo, bro not here. Let's contact his parents, like, yo, why bro not in school? His parents like, what happened? We said we dropped him off. What happened? Oh, nah, let's get on it. Let's get on it. Feel me?
When Asakoya was called by his kidnapped brother on Snapchat, he was blindfolded, naked, and in the background were his kidnappers. Asakoya was warned by the kidnappers he'd better return what he'd stolen or his brother would die. Before fleeing the province, Asakoya broke the news to his father, who contacted police again. Understanding the severity of the situation, Toronto police took a unique step by having Steve Watts, the head of their organized crime unit.
See, that's a tough decision right there to tell your pops, knowing that he gonna tell the cops, because what you thought was gonna happen when you stole the shit, bro? Like, you thought everything was just gonna be sweet? Like, you knew some consequences were gonna come behind this shit, bro. So you go straight to your pops, run to your pops, now you run to the cops. Now what if they just kill your brother? You feel me? What if these niggas are just heartless like that? They don't give a fuck about going to jail. Like, that money really like means something to them. Like, they gonna crash about that shit. Now your brother dead because you went to the cops, bro. When you could have just gave the work up. Feel me? You would have probably got belt. Niggas probably gave you belt to ass, but you probably would have stayed alive though, feel me? But you would have got a little pow like, yo, bro, don't do that shit again. This shit risky though. Calling the cops is risky, bro.
Toronto police took a unique step by having Steve Watts, the head of their organized crime unit, step in front of news cameras to make a plea directly to the kidnappers. I appreciate high-level cocaine business, the situation that faces them, but he's a 14-year-old innocent child. He is not a part of that business, not a part of that lifestyle. We would encourage those who took Shema to drop him off in a safe place, Watts said. 24 hours later, officers finally got a break in the case. The black Jeep Shema was forced into was traced by police through a combination of surveillance video, CCTV, and highway transponder readings. It was located at 10 p.m., burning at Forks of the Credit Provincial Park in Caledon, Ontario. Soon after, police obtained emergency wiretaps which traced communications between the kidnappers and the family of Shema. This helped officers pinpoint the 14-year-old's location to the barn house in Brampton. Nearly 40 hours after his abduction, at 10:20 p.m., Shema was found safe in the abandoned barn. He was alone and in a disheveled state, freezing cold, wearing construction clothes. Shema was given medical attention and reunited with his family later that night. The entire family were then relocated from their home in Driftwood to a safe new location. Now that Shema was located, police shifted their focus on his kidnappers. Over the course of the next 2 months, they obtained vital information from Asakoya, who...
That shit get me tight, bro. I don't know about y'all niggas, but this shit right here get me tight, bro. You stole the drugs to get this shit to the cops? They were trying to fucking feed our family off this shit, nigga. You gonna get this shit to the cops? Come on, bro. Fuck, man.
Safe new location. Now that Shema was located, police shifted their focus on his kidnappers. Over the course of the next 2 months, they obtained vital information from Asakoya, who they managed to get in contact with. He not only provided investigators with a videotaped statement, but he also pointed out one of the kidnappers, Samir Abdelgader. Asakoya allegedly used to make deliveries to Samir, who worked as muscle for the organization. With the info, officers executed several search warrants across the city on May 12, 2020. The warrants saw the arrests of 5 men, including Chunky, Scott McManus, and Samir, plus the seizure of 1 kilogram of cocaine, 70 pounds of marijuana, more than $100,000 in cash and body armor. Chunky and his co-accused were hit with a list of charges ranging from kidnapping to arson. And just like that, the near 2-day kidnapping ordeal was over, but Chunky's trouble in the streets of Toronto was just beginning.
Police say this was an intricate investigation that took nearly 2 years and led to more than 200 charges. And police say this includes discovering another criminal network that were allegedly conspiring to commit murder.
Project Cairns was created in July 2018, when the Contraband Tobacco Enforcement Team began an investigation into the trafficking of tobacco from a manufacturing facility located on Six Nations Mohawk territory. The facility, run by a small organized crime group based in the Greater Toronto Area, was producing upwards of 10,000 contraband cigarettes a minute. In addition to the production and trafficking of contraband tobacco, the team uncovered drug trafficking networks that were responsible for large shipments of illicit cannabis occurring on a weekly basis from British Columbia to Ontario. The project was carried out on June 1, 2020, and it involved investigators executing 13 search warrants in several locations throughout Canada, including Ontario.
See, I'm just a person to just think like, who wasn't minding their business? Like, who was talking too much? Like, how the fuck do you find out about shit like this, bro? Like, how you know which one to open? Like, come on, bro. Y'all niggas be talking too much, bro.
13 search warrants in several locations throughout Canada, including Ontario, British Columbia, and Quebec. The warrants netted 16 arrests and saw 11.5 million BC-bound cigarettes yanked from the black market. The June bust also scored over 1,000 kilos of cannabis, 1.14 kilos of cocaine, 1.3 kilograms of fentanyl, and over 235...
The fentanyl can get the fuck out of here. We don't want the fucking fentanyl. The fentanyl killing everybody. But all this other shit, bro, like, shit break my heart. Oh my God. Niggas was like, oh my God. Niggas was like, yo, when this pack come, bro, we out here, we lit. Nah, this shit fucked up. Niggas is crying, bro. Niggas in this shit like, nah, bro. What? Oh my God. Niggas is tight for the cigarettes, bro. That's 12 Emmys. off just the cigarettes and shit. Feel me? That's just 12 Emmys alone. You feel me?
Kilos of cocaine, 1.3 kilograms of fentanyl, and over $235,000 in cash. In addition to the contraband charges, 7 out of the 16 accused were charged with conspiracy to commit murder. This included Chunky and his former kidnapping conspirator, Hamed Shanawaz. Despite the severity of the charges, less than 2 weeks after their arrest, the kidnapping duo were released on bail, along with the rest of the accused in Project Cairns. Considering
How do they give Chunky bail, though, bro? This is like his 7th time meeting y'all niggas, bro. How y'all gonna give this nigga bail, son? Like,
were released on bail, along with the rest of the accused in Project Cairns. Considering Chunky's extensive criminal history, you would think Canada's criminal justice system would have had enough of his antics by now. Despite being a repeat offender whose face has been blasted on the news year after year, he's been able to either walk away scot-free or with just a slap on the wrist. And it didn't take long for the streets to catch on to the pattern.
Ah, man. Is Chunky talking, bro? Is Chunky... Cause I'm thinking about it, bro. Chunky keep going in there for the murder. Feel me? All these shits. But he keep coming out, doing it again, coming out, doing it again. Is he? Come on, bro. I don't know.
Or with just a slap on the wrist. And it didn't take long for the streets to catch on to the pattern. Sometime in 2022, paperwork surfaced showing Chunky testifying in the trial of Yahya Jama and Zaid Chaudhry, two noted Dixon Bloods. The duo were arrested back in 2017 in relation to the murder of 29-year-old Abdul Qadir Bihi, a newlywed expectant father. As previously mentioned, Chunky was arrested in a raid, which was meant to find Jama and Chaudhry, but instead, officers found Chunky, a large quantity of drugs, guns, and money. During his testimony, Chunky was questioned about a video prosecutors believed he was in. Instead of confirming or denying the allegations,
I seen a light-skinned afro, kind of afro. Yeah, you put a yaya on the... Damn, bro. If you saying that's me, that's not me. He put a yaya on the...
He named Jama as a person of interest. He was quoted saying, "That could clearly be a lot of people. That could be Yahya Jama. If you're saying that's me, that's not me." These documents have never been confirmed to be legitimate, but that didn't matter to his ops, who mocked him relentlessly on social media for pointing out a fellow Dixon blood in a murder trial. Regardless, the snitching accusations didn't seem to faze him or his associates, as he was seen months later at Mustafa the Poet's birthday party hanging with the likes of Doovie, Puffy L's, and even Drake. Chunky was living it up, and with his last arrest being in 2020, he appeared to be staying out of trouble, but that doesn't mean the work he put into the streets was left forgotten. You see, when you end up in the deep end of the streets, your life will only end up 2 ways, either in jail or dead. For Chunky, it was the latter.
A police flatbed truck tows a bullet-riddled white Chrysler 300 from the front driveway of 2 Eva Road, a condominium complex just off Highway 427 north of Bloor Street, where families live. Detectives have yet to identify the victim, but Global News has learned he was in his late 20s, had spent time in...
Well, you think Drake knew he... You think Drake knew he was around a rat? Like, nigga was telling and shit? Do you think Drake knew that?
Jail on gun and drug charges, and was believed to be a member of a West End street gang. So far, no arrests have been made.
On Thursday, March 7th, 2024, at about 8:30 p.m., Toronto police were called to a condominium in the area of West Mall and Eva Road for a shooting. When officers arrived, they found Chunky suffering from gunshot wounds. According to police, multiple suspects approached him and shot him several times while he was sitting in his car in the parking lot of the condo. He was taken to hospital, where he later died. The 29-year-old Dixon Blood was Toronto's 13th homicide victim of 2024. As blunt as it may sound, Chunky's criminal career went longer than it should have. It lasted 11 years, and throughout that time, he created a lot of enemies, with some even from his own block. Shortly after Chunky's death was announced, a few of those enemies had a field day on social media. Some called him a rat, while others put him in a blunt, calling it a Chunky pack.
That shit you put in the freezer. I'm super hot, that shit you put in the freezer.
Judging by these reactions, it's clear Chunky was putting in serious work into the streets. Unfortunately, he was too far gone to change his ways.
Nah, Chunky been telling, bro. Chunky been telling. 11-year run. What's the longest he stayed in that motherfucker? Maybe like 2-3 years he stayed in jail. Yeah, I think he been telling, bro. He was like, "Fuck that shit, I ain't going back." Nigga said, "Fuck that shit, I ain't going back." That's tough though, bro. Tough.
He was too far gone to change his ways.
And your death is still unsolved. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough, bro. He went on an 11-year run though. 11 years is a long fucking time doing that shit, bro. Like, when you want to change your life, though, when you want to do better. And I guess chilling around Drake or whatever he was doing around Drake, he probably was like a security guard, let's say, with Drake or some shit. He probably trying to change his life, but 11 years doing that shit is crazy, man. You feel me? And then you know what's crazy? 11 years doing that shit, and then you end up telling. Like, bro, you know the code to this shit, bro. You signed up for this shit, bro. Why you started telling, bro? Like, niggas, I don't know, bro. That shit crazy. But let me know how y'all feel in the comment. Feel me? Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on the Grammy. You already know the vibes, gang. Give life a new meaning when you dream. It's your boy Dream. I'm out of here, gangy.